So much for my semi-partisan comment. Let me talk to you a little bit about the mission of the ACLU. We're not a political organization, although we do engage in a lot of politics, legislative politics, and politics that are even something that's on the ballot that I'll talk about in a little while. But what we mainly do is protect and advance certain values in this country that last longer than any single election, that last decades and decades, and maybe take decades to try to defend. Just very briefly, we defend the values that are largely found in the First Amendment of our Constitution. Values of freedom of speech, freedom of expression, religious freedom, freedom of conscience, freedom of the right to assemble, the right to protest and speak your mind against policies of this government. The First Amendment values. The Fourth Amendment values, which, in 18th century language was really about personal security, personal privacy. Now into the electronic age, it means all forms of privacy. Privacy from surveillance, privacy from police intrusion into your homes, into your businesses, and so on. The Sixth Amendment values of the rights of fairness and due process. And the 14th Amendment values of equality, that everybody in this country should be treated equally. Those are largely the values that there are others. There's the Eighth Amendment value, the prohibition against cruel and unusual punishment. Some of these are found in the Constitution. Some of these are amplified in federal laws and state laws. The two great achievements of the civil rights movement of the 1960s, the 1964 Civil Rights Act, that guaranteed non-discrimination in places of public accommodations and restaurants and housing and education and so on. The 1965 Civil Rights, the 1965 Voting Rights Act that tore down barriers to the right to vote and so on. So some of these are found in state law, federal law, and so on. Those are the values that we protect. Now I have to say, those values are threatened by almost any time anybody is in power. Nobody is immune by this. This is a bipartisan problem. We have filed lawsuits against Democratic administrations, Republican administrations. We have had allies on the Republican side, allies on the Democratic side. We still have separation of church and state in the state of Florida. A battle I think we're probably going to be facing on the ballot maybe 2 years from now, and I'll talk about that in a second, is largely because of the tiny remnant of, you remember maybe in 2010, this sounds like an oxymoron. Remember when there were moderate Republicans? Yeah. But there's a tiny faction of moderate Republicans in the Florida Senate. There's a state senator from the Miami area. One of the most respected state senators, Alex Villalobos. Sadly, he's turned out of office, but he chaired the Rules Committee, and every year, the forces of Jeb Bush, why am I talking about Jeb Bush? He still was the most influential person in the Florida legislature in the last session of the legislature, introducing bills, including introducing a constitutional amendment to remove the 150-year tradition that we have in the state of Florida that about 36 other states have. We have a provision of our Constitution that says no money shall be allocated from the Treasury, directly or indirectly, to the support of any church or sectarian institution. This is a real problem for Jeb and his supporters because it's what has been used to prevent him from instituting vouchers for church-run schools and aid to religious social service organizations that require that you pray or before you get your soup and things of that sort.